Thank you to CBA for helping to make this happen and for the chance to think and study and to explore symphony and see, which I'm so excited to share some. These are some new ideas I've been having about this ballet. So, so after my talk, I would really welcome feedback and conversation. So just a little bit of background on the ballet in case some of you haven't seen it, in which case you need to run out and watch it. But it was first choreographed in 1947 by George Balanchine for the Paris Opera Ballet. At that point, it had a different title. And then it was restaged in New York City, March 22nd, 1948, which tells us that we're coming up on the 75th anniversary of its premiere in New York. It was also included on opening night of the New York City Ballet a couple months later. And it has remained in the repertory since then, which just gives you an indication of how popular this piece is and has been. A little bit of background on the music. Georges Bizet is the composer. He was a French composer, and he composed this in 1855 in a matter of just about 2 months. It was a student exercise. He was still a teenager, and it might have been assigned to him by his professor at the conservatory, Charles Gounod. It remained unpublished, and he and his widow were adamant that it not be published. And musicologists, music historians have ideas about why, but perhaps in part because it was a student exercise. It was modeled quite closely on Gounod's D major symphony, his first symphony, which was also very popular. And which also which might ring a bell. It was choreographed about 10 years later in the 50s by George Balanchine, 1958, I believe, for Gounod's symphony. In any case, in the Paris Conservatoire, the manuscript for this symphony was rediscovered in 1933 and then had its premiere 2 years later, and it was an immediate success. It was immediately popular. So Balanchine's response to the music, he highlights the music's grandeur, and you immediately get a sense of that, or when you're done watching it, you feel that sense of grandeur. Also clean classical style, symmetry, balance, order, all of these aesthetic priorities of the classical period in music. Motivic connections, as I mentioned, and tonal design. Remember how we described it as all C major triad, all the way to the end. That's what's being emphasized. And Balanchine seems to be emphasizing C major by holding weight on a single foot and showing the different positions and angles of the tendu, a basic building block of ballet, while Bizet emphasizes C major with the chord and arpeggios, which are a building block of music. So remember, we have the exposition of the themes, the development of the ideas, and the recapitulation where you're expecting the return home. And it's this moment at the arrival of C major with the recapitulation that you see this festival of tendus. So not the principal dancers, but the ones on the perimeter. So the tendu motive is being used as a marker of tonal harmonic design. What is this music about? Just to remind ourselves, and what does it tell us about the music? About the ballet. Well, it's a large-scale symphony in the style of Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, and Mendelssohn. So it's large-scale. It's in a particular form. It's an exercise modeled on another work. And so it was composed quickly, and Balanchine also choreographed it quickly in about 2 weeks or so. And it uses many traditional forms: sonata form, scherzo trio, the fugue, and it's showing kind of what these are about, how they work, a little bit of practice on how to write them. And Balanchine recognizes these, and so it doesn't take him all that long to figure out this music, right? So he choreographs it quickly. These classical period traditions of motivic connections. The arpeggio is being used as a building block, but it's a building block not only of music in general of the period, but of this symphony. And Balanchine uses the tendu in a similar way. And in terms of tonal design, we have a home, and then we have other relationships between other keys that are related to the home. And it's those significant moments of arrival or in other case, arrival, and other moments of appearance of the C major that the tendus are presented as. Listen for this. Now, going back again now to what Balanchine said, you have to analyze in advance what this music is all about, what kind of a sound it is, why it's written this way, and what it represents. I just have a few thoughts about Balanchine as a choreographer and what makes him special in terms of his relationship to the music. So Balanchine spoke the language of music, right? He understood it, he read it, he wrote it. He was an insider in the traditions. And he probed the music to understand the artistic impulse behind it, the artistic expression, what it represents. And so he was not limited to responding only to the sonic stimuli of the music. He studied and analyzed the music to understand it on its own terms. And that's really, as I study his choreographies and study the music that he set, the more I dig, I feel the more there is to find. And so as a musician, for me, it's extremely just rich and satisfying to study. And I feel that's just a unique characteristic of his choreographies that not every choreographer has prioritized. So, and then he responded artistically. So after his studies, and he responded musically, using dancers as his instruments. And that's all I wanted to say. Some of the ideas that you bring out in your book, actually, about at this moment, 1947, in Paris, Balanchine, in the 1940s, it seems he was really searching for a reason for maybe for his work, or for even maybe for his existence, and you say that he was searching for a ground for his a point of stability for his life, and that he found it in music. And that really, for me, that rings true. Just looking at his products from this time. 1941 was Concerto Barocco. There's a lot of similarities in the way that he handles music in this one with Concerto Barocco. And there are other ones like Symphony Concertante from the 40s that are really music-based. That later on he might do other things, but these were really music-based, and him showing his musical abilities, but again, not through sounding instruments, but through bodies.
And do you see departures? I mean, even in Barocco, you've shown us some of the ways in which he not only sort of emphasizes the musical qualities and structures, but he also departs from them and creates a kind of different, and comments on them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I've shown today are a lot of correspondences and even simultaneous kind of correspondences, but I picked them out. There are a lot of other instances where the tendus are doing a different thing, or the movements are doing a different thing, and I guess just the one example that more clearly showed that was where he was clarifying the meter by using the ballerina to show the downbeat with her down movement.
So what is that sort of saying, I see that this is not clear, let me clarify it, and then also highlight the syncopation.
That's what I think so.
Doesn't it also highlight the...
It highlights, it helps the listener, if you're following along, if you're passively listening, you could easily hear the horn melody as, some time passed, but now I know where the music is again, because I hear those long notes as strong beats. And then, it's a little bit disorienting, but then we're back again. Or you might not even notice that at all. But when you watch and follow along with the ballerina, and he's showing you the downbeat, then it does highlight the syncopation at that moment.
So I have a question about your title, which I spoke of earlier and liked so much, and just wondered whether you could say a little bit about the idea of secrets and...
Yeah, well, Balanchine...
Why is it secret?
Right. So when I first embarked on these studies, it was partly because I felt like the connections between music and dance, that so many dancers and close observers of Balanchine would talk about, but about it in very poetic terms. They were not giving me the details that I wanted to know, like as an outsider, like why does it feel so musical to you? Like what points? And then when I searched a little bit deeper into like things that Balanchine said, or in his earlier biography by Bernard Taper, Bernard Taper said that Balanchine didn't like to talk about his ballets. He would say something enigmatic in response, or say too fancy, to somebody who offered a thesis or a theory about how his ballets work, but I felt like there is something there. There's so many commonalities among comments of expert viewers and expert dancers and experts on Balanchine. And I could affirm those somewhat in my intuitions as a viewer, and as a student dancer when I was younger, and the way that it seems like it would feel. And as a musician, as a music theorist, I felt like I was not satisfied with just leaving it at intuition. One of the things that music theorists like to do is try to clarify, put words to things that seem ineffable. So providing vocabulary, language, systems of understanding, things, sounds, music, things that are hard to pin down. And so that's kind of the task I took upon myself, to try to satisfy my curiosity about what I was sensing and the themes that I was seeing in more expert viewers.